Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Get Into It with Gila. I'm Gila Glassberg, your host, registered dietitian, and intuitive eating counselor. And today I have on Suzy Charnas. I said it right?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, Suzy. Thank you so much for coming on. Please tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. Where do you live and what do you do?
Sure. So I am born and raised in Brooklyn, specifically Flatbush, and I have two branches in my private practice in Brooklyn specifically for any feminine mental health related issue. And in Brooklyn, I service the Crown Heights community and the Flatbush community. I absolutely love it, but I do specialize in disordered eating and body dysmorphia.
Wow, amazing. Okay, so how long have you been a therapist for?
I've been a therapist for a little under 10 years.
Wow. And did you always want to be a therapist?
I think it would have been my first sentence right out of the womb if I
Yeah.
it was. Yes.
Wow, wow. So like ever since you could remember or when you heard of the profession or whenever you could articulate it, that was you knew that you wanted to be a therapist.
Yes. And I didn't have a specific trajectory in terms of what kind of clinical therapy I was going to go into. That was shaped more through my experience as a clinical therapist. But absolutely, right off the bat, I always knew I wanted to own my private practice.
What made you like think that you would be a good therapist or think that this would be a good field for you?
In terms of what I enjoy most, I always felt that psychology and people-oriented jobs suited my personality. And I do think it comes with a plethora of different roles. And so we're going to get into it more. I not just do clinical work, I also go into schools. I help create curriculums for foundations that go into schools to give workshops and discuss mental health issues.
Mhm.
And so all of my interests really helped me come up with this idea and ultimately also enjoy it and thrive in it.
That's amazing. So you knew as a child or as a young adult you wanted to be a therapist. And did you specifically you work with people who struggle with disordered eating, body dysmorphia? Is that something that you personally struggled with?
When I was a kid, I'll even go back to when I was born. I was late, and I'm
Okay.
little over 5 pounds.
Oh,
So
wow.
anyone that had a baby knows how small that is.
Yeah.
I was exceptionally small, and my mother always told me that since I was literally a baby, the doctors didn't know why, but I was always going to be smaller than all the other children. And when I got a bit older, they gave me hormone shots to grow. And I always felt insecure in my body. One of the issues with being particularly small is that you don't have a good idea of what normal feels like. You don't know if what you experience in your body is what everyone else experiences, or is it because you're just exceptionally small? Also, my understanding of what a normal body type was a bit distorted.
Mhm.
I only got to realize how my personal experiences shape the way I feel about my own body and other people's bodies once I really got older. I think when I was in high school, mainly, a little bit during middle school, but mainly in high school, when everyone hits puberty and all the girls started looking like women and I didn't. And it really hit me hard. And then you start to think to yourself, well, what could I do to make myself feel good in my body? And that's usually when girls start to worry about their weight.
Hmm.
Some girls really take it far. They even dye their hair, or some girls do plastic surgery. I don't necessarily think there is one specific thing that indicates how healthy or unhealthy a person is, but very often, because it's in our control, it does lean in towards weight. And that was for me.
Hmm. And meaning like you wanted to gain weight?
I wanted to feel good in my body, and I think it varied each year. So some years I felt like I was such a small frame that I couldn't carry any weight. Some years I felt like I wanted to look like everyone else, so I wanted to gain weight. And I just think it was dependent on what the fad was and how I felt in that moment.
Got it. It's interesting to hear like your perspective because I feel like usually it's the opposite. Usually people feel too big and they want to be smaller, right?
Definitely had that at times. So I could say I felt what it felt like to be uncomfortable in one's body on both ends of the coin.
Hmm. And so this was all throughout like high school. And did you ever go to a therapist for body image issues?
I eventually went to a nutritionist to start, which I'm going to talk a little bit about the pros and the cons of going to a nutritionist. And I didn't until I was an adult really address body dysmorphia and eating in therapy. I want to say that that is such a shame. Looking back, I definitely think I could have used a lot more help with it,
Mhm.
but that's what we're here for. We're here to
Right.
create awareness for the young, the middle, and old, and for everyone to understand what they could be doing at their age and stage.
So this really like fueled your work, like because of your own personal experience.
Absolutely.
Okay, so as soon as you got to college, like you knew you were becoming a therapist
Yes.
and starting your own practice.
Yes.
And why starting your own practice? I'm just curious.
Starting my own practice, I think I always loved the idea. And ironically, when I started to work in my first group practice, I thought, oh, this is for sure not for me because it's so hectic and there's so much overhead and non-clinical work that goes into running your own business. This is not
Hmm.
for me. But then when I got my feet wet, I said, but no, I take it back. It is for me because it's worth it. And the parts of it that I love most is that I really get to tailor make the kind of therapy I offer.
Right, right, right. I totally understand as a business owner. It is hard to run your own business. It's a whole different ball game than the clinical work. So it's like two totally separate jobs that are merged into one, or like 10 different jobs. I don't know.
Yes, exactly.
Um, okay, so tell me a little bit more about your work. So you're saying that you work with people who have disordered eating and they struggle with body dysmorphia. And I know hopefully we'll get to it, that you teach in schools and you do workshops and stuff like that. But tell me a little bit more about like your hands-on day to day. What does it look like, and how do you help teens and young adults and women work through body image issues?
So I think that's a loaded question. There's a lot to it. I want to start by saying that I'm mainly working with teens and young women at this age and stage of my life. And so that usually includes a lot of family support, specifically motherly support.
Hmm.
I always start by saying when a girl's coming in, I need to speak to her mother. I need to make it very clear this is a family dynamic very often, and I need the mother to understand how she could do the therapy outside of therapy. And I don't know if you have this experience with other therapists telling you that's very often mothers pay for the therapy and then turn to the child and say, your therapist is going to say why I'm the problem. Just know I'm not. And I'm a great mother. And it's such a joke how in psychoanalysis, all roads lead to mother. And I want to start by saying there are so many contributing factors as to why a girl struggles. And so, no,
Hmm.
we're not out to get mothers.
Right.
However, we do believe that mothers have a great influence and are a big contributing factor. And so, a huge part of the kind of unique work that I do, and I'm sure plenty of other therapists do this as well, but not all, is influence the mother to make personal changes because children are mirroring us. They're constantly watching every single move we make. And so if you want to role model the appropriate behavior, then there are ways to go about it, and we could talk about it. And also, I very often say this to parents, you had her for 18 years and you gave me her for 6 months. Do you
Hmm.
see the difference in terms of power and influence? And so
Hmm.
I'm going to return her very soon, and you're going to also just continue to have her for who knows how many more years. So why should you not be aware of what I'm doing?
Hmm.
And even for yourself and the other children in the household.
That's interesting. It's like it like landed on me in a very like intense way because I'm actually, I think we discussed this, I'm writing a book, and and I haven't titled it yet, but I do find myself leaning towards the title of like becoming your own mother, which is interesting because I'm a dietitian, right? So what does that have to do with anything? But like just to explore, and I would love to hear more about your personal work, but just to explore my own personal work, like myself and my clients, like you're saying, like how much, I'm not blaming mothers in any way. Like you said, I like the word that you use, influence, like just to, I guess, the awareness of how much influence a mother has on a child. And like I say this a lot to clients that like, some clients will tell me, or just friends, they'll say like, I'm trying to work on like body acceptance of my child. You know, like they live in a larger body, and I'm okay with it, but like, what if they're bullied because of it, right? And it's like I hear you, and it's uncomfortable to feel bullied, but like we all know this if we reflect on our own childhood that like it always hurts to feel bullied, but if we have that like bubble of protection from our parents, like your love no matter what, it just doesn't penetrate the same way or at all, you know? So it's like I'm curious, like what would you say if you could think about it? Like what is like a common theme that you see with mothers, maybe like um in terms of body image, in terms of disordered eating? Is it like there's someone, is it like they're struggling with their own disordered eating and therefore passing it on to their daughters? Is it that they're not even aware of it, or they are aware of it, but they just don't know how to change it? Like, meaning, like, are they coming to you for that type of support, or it's really just for their daughters? I just want to hear like a little bit more about like your personal experiences.
Wow. Okay. Firstly, all of the above and then some.
Yeah,
And I love it that you're bringing in your personal experience because I want all mothers to feel that they're in this together.
right,
No one is perfect. Everyone wants to know how to raise their child better.
right.
And this is not at all, we're not villainizing anyone in specific. So I want to start by saying that there is a lot of personal experience that goes into raising children. I'll start with the premise. Parents teach us how to be them because that's the only kind of person they know how to teach. And therefore, all of the things that are within you, you're going to consciously and subconsciously pass down, and that is okay. So, being more aware of your own personal issues is just the first step.
Mm-hmm,
And therefore, if you know that you're sensitive to weight, if you know that sometimes you're going to speak negatively about your own body, and I'm not speaking to you specifically, I'm speaking to any mother or future mother that is going to listen to this,
mm-hmm,
then it behooves you to speak more kindly to yourself because the way you speak to yourself is how your child will eventually speak to themselves and others.
mm-hmm,
And so, you mentioned this idea of bullying, but I want to flip it in the opposite direction. Imagine you have a very skinny child who's model-esque and doesn't say the nicest things about other girls' bodies. And
right.
she's the bully. Imagine what that is like. Because imagine you're a model-esque woman and you're thinking, I would never have an issue with low self-esteem. My children are set because we're tall, we're fit, we're blonde, we're whatever you can imagine. And so I'm walking in saying, well, look at you, look how perfect you are. Everyone must be so jealous. I'm thinking, I'm setting my child up for a great self-esteem. Imagine she says that out loud. Imagine she goes into school and then makes a negative remark about another girl's body. The trauma that the other girl will hold in her heart for who knows how long, if not forever, you're now held liable.
Mm-hmm,
And in addition to that, now going to the girl that could get bullied, I do think that parents might say things under their breath and they don't even realize what negative body self-talk even looks like. It's, oh, nothing looks good on me.
mm-hmm,
Or I can't find my size in any Jewish store.
mm-hmm,
These Jewish stores just don't carry my size.
mm-hmm,
Or why is it that all the holidays make me feel so fat all the time?
right.
I'm always so bloated.
Yeah,
It's, of course, not just, oh, I hate my body.
right.
And I want to say that the social media aspect is another part that I want to delve into here. But what do you think about what I'm saying so far?
I think it's great. And I think the social media piece, we cannot ignore it. So I want to go there, but I also want to ask you. So, like these comments that you just said, I like to me, it's like, to me, obviously, I'm like, yes, of course, you shouldn't say things like that. But I do like, I feel, I find myself in a category where I feel like overly sensitive because of my work and because of my personal experience. Um, right. So, like, I know people that, whether it's like relatives, friends, or clients, it's like they could hear those statements and think that they're relatively neutral, right? And it's like nobody's trying to be malicious, but I'm assuming that you're saying those comments because those are comments that you've heard from your clients where they hear it, whether they hear it once or they hear it multiple times, it makes an impression on them.
Yes. And what you don't say is equally harmful. And therefore, if you're not giving yourself compliments, proactively supporting the way your body looks, it's just as bad.
That's a really good point, actually.
And so just a girl walking into the kitchen randomly saying, "Oh my goodness, I made that." That's it.
Right,
That's it. And just saying that about yourself. Walking downstairs and saying, "I love the way I look in this dress right now."
right. That's a
That
really good point.
neutral is not the same as positive, and we're
Right.
looking for positive. In the worst case scenario, may it be neutral?
It's interesting because I talk with my clients. I wonder what you think about this about like body neutrality. Like it's very, very hard to go, unrealistic, I would say, to go from body hatred to body love. So I do think that giving people like those stepping stones, like I understand that right now you're feeling like disgust, right? That's like such a strong word, but like for people who like it's interesting to like look at this through our lens because like it does like the clients that I see, let's say the adult clients, it's like it started when they were whether they were 5 or 15, but it started with like those, even if the parents never said anything to them, which like kudos to those parents, but like let's say they said like I hate my body, I'm so fat, yet it's so hard because I feel so fat. It's like they heard that like you said, the way that we speak to ourselves is the way that our children learn to speak to themselves, no matter what.
Yes. Yeah.
So, so we're just like, even though we're trying to be like body neutral or body positive by not saying anything to the child, but we're not proactively saying like, I love my body, I love how I look in this body. We're also giving them a message.
Yes. Yes. And also, imperfect is perfect. And I want children to know what it's like to struggle with body and eating and know how to get out of it too. Similar to anxiety, similar to any other mental health struggle, showing a child how to get out of it and knowing that not every single day you will love your body is so important. So if you're going to say, "Today I don't feel my best," model what it means to struggle through your body in the most positive way possible, which means today I don't feel my best, but I still love overall how I look. I also know that it's not the end of the world, and
Right.
I'm thinking about it for 5 minutes just because I want to feel validated, but I still love overall how I look. And modeling healthy struggle is really how to navigate all or nothing realities. All or nothing realities is very common amongst people with disordered eating. And Heilbroch, the leading authority of eating disorders in the 70s, talks about how she had done a number of studies with patients that have either binge eating or anorexia. And she said that an extreme person with anorexia is very capable of binging. And a person with binge eating is very capable of anorexia because when you are extreme, at any point you can swing to the opposite end of the pendulum. And that is true for other issues. People with anxiety are prone to depression. People with depression are prone to anxiety. They are opposite ends of the same coin.
Mhm.
And there is neuroscience behind it. I do have a neuroscience background. And so we're not going to get into that right now, but I just want you to know I'm quoting literature and science. Essentially, what does that mean? We're always giving room for shades of gray and imperfection and in between experiences. And so you're not going to love yourself today. So how do you dislike yourself in a healthy way?
I really like that. I think that might be a good title, disliking yourself in a healthy way. I think I'm thinking about this in my own personal life with my children and with my clients. So that's like really helpful to think about. Like, I'm always like, what shouldn't you say? But like, what should you say? Like, I actually, I like Ellie Chevalis a lot. I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but she talks about like, she has a course called Secret, Not Secret about like healthy sexuality. And she says that the same way that we don't like talk to our children about religion when a girl turns 12 and a boy turns 13, we don't talk to them about like intimacy or body positive touch when they're that age, right? So it's like we're always throughout their childhood, like they know the difference between healthy and unhealthy touch because we touch them, because we explain it to them, right? So it's the same thing here, like whether, and she also says something really important, like the things that we don't say, kids assume are bad. So the things that we don't talk about, they just assume is negative,
Oh,
right?
okay. Yes, and I want to roll back to a big part of this, making every topic healthy, including the way that you look. Now, a lot of people assume body positivity means, or healthy body image means you view your body only as a vessel for nutrients. Not true. We're so dynamic.
Hmm.
Our body needs nutrients. We need to function. There's a huge part of our body that is for functionality, but we are so much more than that. We are above what an animal is. We don't need things just for functionality. We care about beauty. We care about what it means to serve Hashem with beauty. And
Hmm.
so beauty is a value. And when you're able to insert it into healthy body positivity and self-talk, you are creating an opportunity to have healthy beauty talk, which is so dicey for so many people. A lot of people say healthy body image doesn't include any talk about beauty. And my take is everything in the right amount, at the right time, at the right place, with the right people. Everything in moderation. And so, what does it mean to talk about beauty in a healthy way? Beauty matters. But the question is, are you willing to hurt your body in order to look a specific way? That should never be the case. Are you constantly thinking about how am I looking right now as I'm speaking to someone? Are you asking yourself, is my day going to be amazing if I love my outfit? Or how did I feel about myself if I was the one with the nicest dress at the wedding versus not? And so all of these minute questions really judge how much beauty takes up in your brain space. And so we're not trying to remove it completely. We're trying to put it in the right space at the right place and time. But what do you think about that?
That's really interesting. I would say like a reframe for me because I find like in my work that I'm constantly um challenging people, challenging myself, like in my one-on-one clients, in my podcast, in my writing, and in my thought process about like let's say Judaism. Let's use in the confines of Judaism. It doesn't have to be, but I often find myself saying this that like we value the human body as Jews, right? And we believe that Hashem gave us this one and only body to use as a vessel, meaning our neshama is housed in our physical body, and physicality is a means to an end. However, wait a second, let me just continue that. So, so we need to take care of our physical body, and I say like you're saying, like we should feel beautiful in our physical body, but it shouldn't be the main focus. Right? So like I think about this in terms of like let's say Yavon, right? Like Yavon was obsessed with the physical body and the physique and over exercising and the spirituality meant nothing, right? And that's not us as Jews. We don't we're so much deeper than that. But at the same time, we should feel beautiful in our body. Now you're saying the key is really the balance, right? Like you could be in a larger body and feel beautiful. It's just that society is obsessed with a thin ideal.
Exactly.
So that's like a societal pressure. Like, what is beauty? I guess we have to define that. You know what I
Ooh,
mean?
yes. Ooh, okay. So many good points. I'm going to be honest with you. I have to keep track. I wish I had a pen and pad in front of me because I feel like you're bringing up so many parts that I want to address, and I'm going to have to reflect offhand. But I do want to say that I want to backtrack here. And I want to say that everything related to health is attached to a value. People come into therapy because they lost attachment to their values and they're
Mhm.
trying to reattach to it in the best way possible. And so when someone comes into my office and says, I'm obsessed with the way that I look, or I'm obsessed with my weight, or
Mhm.
how people perceive it, then what they're telling me is I lost touch with certain values. Here is why, help me get back. But we first start with the premise, what value are you trying to get back in touch with? And so you could define the value the way that you would like. I'm going to say that self-care, being an Eved Hashem, as you put it, right? That's one way. And I do think that appreciating beauty in itself is a value. It's an art, it's a skill. And what you're describing is how sometimes values can conflict with others, but we need a reframe. And also, is it really truly your value to starve yourself? Is that really getting in connection with beauty, or is that obsession? Is that community acceptance? Is that a low self-esteem looking for control because the low self-esteem has nothing to hold on to, so the next best thing is how it looks? What do you think?
I think it's really like intriguing to think about it like this. Like, not that I've never thought about it like this, but I feel like you're taking it to another level where I'm really like thinking like, I have to wonder, like I might have to think about this off camera later, but like, is beauty a value into itself? So now I'll tell you where what I think. Um, Over the years, like analyzing this specific question, I've thought about the concept of the Enneagrams.
Oh, I love the Enneagram. I use it in my work all the time. Tell me more.
Okay, so this is like going to be hard for me to say in a short time, but I'll try. This is like a lot of stuff going in my book, but basically, I grew up out of town. Okay, so I grew up with a value, and I'm exploring this more in my adulthood. I'm 35. That like maybe I'm not exactly sure what the value is, but like that like money shouldn't be so important, or like people who are very into fancy things are like shallow, something like that. And I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just saying what is. And I live in the five towns. I never thought I would end up here ever. I don't think of myself as somebody, whatever whatever that means, having the values of the five towns. I happen to love the five towns, and I think it's amazing. Anyways,
That sounds
so
like I just want to insert this on camera so you can hear it. The reason we're connected right now is because I heard such wonderful feedback about you from your colleagues that I reached out and you invited me onto your podcast, but the Five Towns loves you.
thank you. That's so sweet. We're very happy here, and like I was trying to say, like there's nothing bad about the values in the five towns. I'm just saying from I guess my childhood perspective, let's say. Okay. So now as I got older and started doing this work, and I struggled with my own disordered eating as a teen, and I was very into the thin ideal myself, and I guess subscribed to the beauty standards that were surrounding me. Now, as I got into this own work and did my own exploration, one thing that was um, very like pronounced was that I wanted to make a lot of money. Money was very important to me. And like I noticed it in my work. Like I want to start my own practice. I want to make a lot of money. I want to be independent. I want to show my worth. I want to show my blah blah blah. Okay. So now this kind of conflicted with my childhood values of like we shouldn't want a lot of things. We shouldn't want nice fancy things. Okay. Um, and then I stumbled upon the Enneagram. I don't remember. I wouldn't even say stumbled. I was very into like self-exploration, and I'm a four. So fours.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I just want to say, I was going to say the fours know how to challenge the idea of beauty, considering them to be the most creative, romantic, and beauty oriented of all the types.
So that's funny that you say that because is a two also very into like into aesthetics? Twos are very into aesthetics.
They could be, the twos are the helpers. So they're mainly into being martyrs and the people that are people pleasers, essentially.
Okay, the reason why I'm saying this is because I think like I'll be honest, I really love what's her name? Um I forgot her name. But Rebbetzin Young Race, okay? I loved her books in seminary, and I really liked her speeches. I heard her speak in person, and I noticed that she dressed in this most beautiful way, the most refined way, but very stylish. And like because of this value system, and because I'm a four and I'm overly analytical, I wondered how could it be like a very serious woman could be so fashionable if like fashion, right? Whatever. This isn't how my brain works, but like fashion is like giving into like the beauty ideals. And then I read the Enneagram, which is funny because you're saying fours. I don't consider myself so into like aesthetics, although I guess I am. I'm saying I'm grappling with this because maybe I'm not so into fashion, but I'm into like my house looking a certain way, let's say. Okay. So it took away a lot of judgment when I read the Enneagram because I was like, beauty for some people, aesthetics is really a part of their nature, and they're not shallow or low because they love beautiful things. It actually enhances their avodas Hashem. It enhances the way that they relate to the world. Even just like a great example of this, let's take out like beauty of people, is like just yesterday I was driving with my sister, and I was about to say, like, aren't the trees beautiful? And she's like, aren't the trees beautiful? I was like, I was literally about to say that because it's so vibrant, the colors, like when the winter ends. I mean, it's still very cold, but just like you see all the purples and the reds and the yellows. I don't know, my black is beautiful, stunning. And it's like that's beauty, right? So like on the one hand, it's like part of my work is to like stop being obsessed with the beauty ideals. On the other hand, like what you're saying is like, but we have to acknowledge that beauty, let's say, is a value unto itself. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, yes. And again, you're touching upon a whole separate topic now. I listen to a shir a day. And so I will say that Rav Akiva Tatz speaks,
Yeah, I love Akiva Tat. He speaks to my soul.
same. He doesn't know this, but I'm
Yeah,
obsessed
yeah.
with
Very
him.
deep, very like real like depth like to his writings.
Yes, and I know that we're not specifically talking about Judaism right now, but if anyone is interested, they could go on to simpletoremember.com, listen to Rav Akiva Tatz's take on Ruach HaKodesh leaving the earth, and it talks about how during the time of Purim, around that time period, Ruach HaKodesh left, and that was when he specifically talks about beauty, when beauty meant something completely different in the world. And it was beauty, by definition, is when the outside reflects the inside. And
So
before,
interesting. I have
during,
to write it down 1 second.
during the times of Ruach HaKodesh, if you were a beautiful person, you looked beautiful. When Ruach HaKodesh left the world, that was when everything changed. What was on the outside did not necessarily reflect on the inside, and that was why Vashti was prettier than Esther.
Wow.
It was beautiful, beautiful share on Ruach HaKodesh, and ultimately how you saw Hashem and his intrinsic powers and amazingness and oneness when you saw a beautiful thing.
Well, that I wonder, that is probably why in the Torah it mentions like how beautiful Sarah was and how beautiful Yosef was and how beautiful, like there's obviously the Mepharshim speak much more in depth than what I'm saying, but like what you're saying is that beauty is a reflection of like the internal reflecting the external. And nowadays we don't have Ruach HaKodesh, but just to take this a step further is like, let me pause myself for a second. One time I heard two people discussing this about shidduchim and people being attracted to one another. Right? Okay, so one person said, I know this is so funny, but it was so like pronounced for me. It was before I was married, and it was two sisters arguing. So one sister said, "Ugh, men are so shallow," and the other sister said, I don't believe that it's shallowness. I believe that two people are attracted to each other because it's from a spiritual place. It's not like I look at her and he looks at me and we're just so attracted to each other's physical appearance. There's like a depth that we're attracted to. And that really like this was like 20 years ago, but it resonated with me like that's such an interesting way to think. And the way that you're kind of like defining beauty is the way that I'm kind of thinking about it like that. Like, why do we want to be beautiful? Whatever beautiful means, right? And if we could pull it apart for a second, and you're saying like beauty as a value, I think it means much more than physical beauty.
Essentially, yes. And that really speaks to when you see a beautiful person, it might mean that's a person that does self-care. That's a person that appreciates kindness to others, caring, respecting another person. I'm showing up in a beautiful way, in a refined way, because I care about being a person that looks like an Eved Hashem. If you serve Hashem, you are clean looking. You're beautiful to look at, or you care about respecting another person's presence and work, and you want to show that it matters to you, and therefore you put effort into the way that you look to show that it matters. Or I care about my body. It's such a beautiful vessel. It helps me live in this world. I want to love it. I want to give back to it. And so your beauty, essentially, if we're defining it the way Rav Akiva Tat is, your ability to send a message to the world will send a message of some sort. And so, do I think that the sisters had a point? Well, one of them at least Yes, because I don't think it's an accident that couples tend to look alike. We're trying to build the same thing. Do we tend to look alike? There's studies behind how people are attracted to those that look similar to them or similar to how they grew up. And if they're not, they tend to look more similar with time, according to research. It's very interesting.
It is very interesting, right? We tend to like look for what's familiar to us subconsciously. It's not conscious.
Yes, I'm quoting a Psychology Today article. I still believe I have the magazine. So I try to quote specifically so that way, again, it's not heebie-jeebie, made
Yeah,
up, this is how I
very.
feel. A lot of
Yeah.
scientific, yeah, article-based information.
Yeah, this is so interesting. So tell me a little bit more about, one second, hold on. I just need to look at my notes for a second. I don't usually do this on camera, but I just want to make sure we're covering this. I would love to hear how you help parents create this awareness. So we're talking about healthy body image and how teens and young women can gain a better understanding of what's best for their bodies and how to give love to their bodies through different stages of life.
Yes, so we definitely touched upon a nice amount of points as we went through this. I want to say, going to your first question, how parents can help. So, like we said, role modeling good behavior and positive self-talk is one big piece to it. Also, I think that there's a lot of misconceptions around what healthy nutrition actually looks like. And so learning about what healthy nutrition actually is important. What I go to usually is saying individualized care is ideal care. So coming in, sharing with children and yourself, the idea that no body should look similar and that what kind of food helps you grow as a person or physically is not the kind of food another person should eat, and that is okay.
Hmm. So it's
And
like really individualizing people.
yes, another person can digest carbs. What if you can't? Another person loves to eat vegetables and their body reacts perfectly fine. You eat better when you're eating fruit. Also, understanding internal cues. Parents usually say things like, finish what's on your plate. Or you can get up and go play once you're done eating a certain amount of your protein.
Hmm.
What if a child likes to get up after they ate a nice amount of chicken, busy themselves, and then come back to their chicken?
Hmm.
What if that is their pattern of eating? Because they like to eat slowly, and some children like to eat a bit more quickly. Disrupting the pattern of eating or a natural organic pattern of eating is detrimental. You're basically telling them there's a very specific way to eat 3 meals a day at these specific times within this specific time limit is detrimental because some people actually digest food a lot more slowly. Some people are smaller, and so they cannot hold the same amount of food in their stomach the way other people can. And so to ask them to fill up really quickly and then go run to play is a little unfair. They're going to finish what they need. Give them time.
Hmm.
Also, giving them tools, tips, and tricks to eat healthy and when to exercise also. So Rambam talks about this. He says you should never, maybe you know this, exercise right after you eat a meal. And also, you should chew as much as you can. It really helps. You should not be eating for at least 3 hours prior to bed. That's what Rambam wrote in his book. I'm actually in the middle of one of his there was a big Rav who decided to take all of his nutritional advices and put it into one book. I'm going to have to share that off camera with you because I have it somewhere in my library. But teaching parents, these are the tips and tricks. You have to give it over to your children. And if you don't know it, then how are you going to guide them into healthy eating?
Hmm.
What do
That's
you
interesting because I don't know if you're familiar with the division of responsibility.
tell me more about it?
Okay. So Ellen Satter created this feeding dynamic. It's called the division of responsibility, and she's a therapist slash dietitian. And it's basically, um, I don't want to contradict what you're saying, but it's basically like the parent is in charge of the what, where, and when of eating, and the child decides how much and if any. So let's say like I just want to like I'm actually thinking of a specific client, so I want her to hear this, like to hear like the actual conversation about it. Like let's say like I'll encourage parents to set a specific meal time for their family. Let's say it's like let's say I'll use myself as an example. Like around 5 o'clock we eat dinner. Now, especially now that it's getting nice outside, my kids are in and out, in and out, and in and out, right? So so I often say like the person who started this, Ellen Satter, like she probably didn't have more than one or two children. So I have five, Kana and Hara. So it is hard, like you have to learn, we call it like responsive feeding now. So you have to respond to your family's needs. So like I don't, dinner is sort of like, let's say 5 to 6. But I do think it is really important for children to learn that there are meal times and snack times, meaning they shouldn't be grazing all throughout the day. So if mealtime is within this time frame, then when they could leave the table and come back and finish their chicken, but I kind of encourage them to be like, this is mealtime. And after dinner, if you're still hungry, you could have a fruit or a vegetable. And meaning they could go to the kitchen, take it with their own autonomy. And around the age of 10, I don't really have like food rules, meaning like if they want to go into the kitchen and have a second dinner, they can. I'm trying to give them autonomy. But when they're really little, let's say like 0 to 9, they do need a little bit more help from their parents, like guiding them, like you shouldn't be grazing all day, you know?
Okay, so I want to clarify. The original topic was for teens
Hmm.
specific.
Right, right, right.
So yes, absolutely. What the younger you are, the less autonomy you have because you're not yet old enough to know the right decisions for yourself. Absolutely. For teens, I do feel that you're closer to adulthood than you ever will be, right? You're talking about a
Yeah,
15, 16, 17-year-old
you're
and then
right. No, you're right. 100% with the teenagers, you really want to foster that autonomy.
yes, absolutely. And you're right. The age and stage and the perfect way to wean them off of your guidance is really difficult. We could have a 50-minute conversation on how to do that
Yeah,
correctly, cry about the fact that we'll never do it correctly.
100%.
Absolutely. And I do think that you're right. The implementation of flexibility is done in ages and stages. And I do think that if we're talking a little bit about the teen stage right now, where I'm at, I do think that a lot of girls have pressure. I want to bring in Shabbos and Yontif meals into this conversation. I think it's a very important topic. What to do when a child really cannot manage a regular meal. Now, what does that look like? That means that they feel they can't sit down for so long, or they can't eat that much, or they like specific foods and not all foods, picky eater. So for a teenager specifically, I think what's really important is letting them know that there's a difference between eating and having a meal with family. And they're two separate goals with two separate experiences. We would like them to overlap as much as possible. We
Mhm.
want you to be able to enjoy family time at a meal while eating what everyone else is eating. But if you have specific needs, now everyone should start off with a template and then branch out. Let's say you're sensitive to protein, right? There are certain people with protein allergies, let's say, and everyone's going to be eating the meat and the chicken and the yapchik and the cholent, and you're sitting there feeling so left out. Make it
Mhm.
a experience for you. Let's go online. Let's find something great on Pinterest or Instagram. Let's make it together because mommy loves you so much. And that's going to be your Shabbos food when everyone else is having their protein. We
Mhm.
want to solidify that certain preferences or needs in a meal is not necessarily going to feel restrictive. And how are you feeling about that part so far?
No, I totally hear that. I'm just going back to the thing that talking about teens and parent awareness. Um, I just want to hone in on the point is that it's really like it's kind of like the parent working on their own individual needs is a way to model for their children to take care of their own individual needs.
Yes, yes, and there's no shame around it. And also, as a side, I know that we agreed to an F50, so I
Yeah.
have another 3 minutes or 2 minutes rather. But I want to go to any specific or one last question you find to be the most important before we close out.
I want to say that this was a really interesting conversation. I want to also say we could do a part two if you're interested, because there's so many things we didn't get to. And because I want to pick your brain a little bit more about like a lot more about your practice and about your mindset and about even like the things that we spoke about, like the Enneagram and personality types and beauty, like just like how that shows up for you as a clinician and with your clients and if it resonates with them or if it's something that you've discussed with them. But yeah, for the topic of today, it really was more about like parents and teens. So um I think I'm good, but I would love to hear if there's like any last remarks and if people could contact you if they want to, or if you're taking clients.
Yes, I am taking clients at this time, and I'm assuming you'll put my website and
Yeah.
my contact information in the
Okay. Yeah.
information below. But to quickly respond, I would love to do a part two. You're right, the Enneagram, and also talking more about how the Torah topics tie in addition to the other parts of the work I do, and also how I see my clients transition. A big part that I wanted to get to today, but hopefully could get to a different time. How the sense of self needs to develop differently at different ages and stages. So I'm working with girls that usually are starting out in high school and then go all the way into early adulthood, seminary, college, getting married, having your first child. How does all of what we talk about look differently at all these different stages? So that's something I hope we could continue to talk about.
Yeah, I think that's a really important piece. That's like a big part of my book is like, food and dieting as a sense of identity and like how that happens for people who don't have a very strong identity, myself included. Like that's where my struggle started as a teenager. And like people don't think about it as like food and identity, but it's such an important piece to explore. So thank you for coming on. It is 12:50. We'll end here and I'll put all your information in the show notes and hopefully we'll do a part two.
Yes, I'm looking forward and thank you for being you.
Thank you for being you. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, bye.